So that makes me very sad. I had 13 minutes in on a video and I flipped the camera around because Gidget was like up close and personal. And then when I went to hit the button to flip it back around, I hit stop instead. Shit. So we just restart, I guess. No, I do not want it. So yesterday I did 2 videos. The first one was the longer one. It was like an hour and 9 minutes. And the second one I think was just a little over a half hour. I won't swear to that. But I'm so disappointed. Okay, so I mentioned that my car that I drive was acting weird, and I had an appointment last night to go get it checked out. So this is so frustrating. Okay, so I went and got it checked out last night. Now, what it was doing was, I believe it was Thursday. I think I might have said Friday, but I think it was actually on Thursday. I drove over to my brother's house and had my dogs with me, and I went to pick up my niece and then took her to walk with me and the dogs because she wanted to. So we went down to the cemetery, which was not even a mile from their house, and we went on a little walk. Well, on the way to the cemetery, what my foot was doing on the accelerator and how the car was accelerating was not matching up at all. Yeah. So it's like when I had my foot on the accelerator, it wasn't speeding up, and then when I took my foot off the accelerator, then all at once it started speeding up. I was like, that's not cool. By any means. Gidget, I don't want that. Oh, put it in my shoe then. Just put her ball in my shoe. No. So I can't believe I lost the whole thing. Anyway, yeah, so that was a concern. When I started the car, when we went to leave the cemetery, the check engine light came on, and then it was pretty much on the entire time after that, every time I went to start it. So on Thursday, my dad said he took it out and drove it around a little bit, and it didn't do anything. Okay, because every time I drove it, it did something. Well, and like at one point, it sounded like there was like a belt slipping or something. It felt like something like that because it was like there's this weird jarring sensation, and a really weird noise. So I of course the check engine light was on many times. And like I took it to walk the dogs like 3 times, and then to skate a couple times, and check engine light every single time. So we got it in with my uncle's friend last night. He said that it sounded like a transmission issue, and if that was the case, he would not be able to help us. He said, but he could hook it up to his computer he said it'd take less than 5 minutes, and he'd be able to run a diagnostic and see what was going on with it. So last night, I drove over to his house with the check engine light still on and parked it in his driveway. And I went up to the door and talked to his kid about having talked to him and all that stuff. And he was supposed to check it with the computer and all that, blah, blah, blah. So they went and got him and had him come out to with the computer. So he sets the computer up to the car and says it's not showing anything. So he asked if I minded if he drove it, and it's like, no, that's fine. You need to figure out what's happening. So he starts it. We get in the car. It's not doing anything. He starts driving it, and no check engine light, doesn't do anything. It's just normal. It's like, okay. And I told him what it was doing. And he said he believed me. Also, there was nothing he could do, but it wasn't showing up as doing anything at that point. So he said when we got back to his house, he would hook it up to the computer again and have it checked with the most recent startups. He said that there's a computer system that like tracks all that stuff and makes sure all the processes get completed and all that stuff. And when he did that, he said it showed that there was an incomplete startup. It's like, okay, well. So he said, so basically it just didn't get the chance to cycle through and make sure all the systems were working right. And he said sometimes that could cause issues, beyond the normal. So, yeah. So he did that. There was one incomplete startup, and it didn't do anything else. It's like, okay. So he gave me his number and told me to text him next time, or if it does it again, and he could have me, like, he said he could try to have me come out that night and check it again to see, at that point. He said, but if it's not doing it now, obviously there's nothing he could do about it. He said, but the transmission sounds good too. So that was a good thing. So yeah. So I go to, I figured since I'm already, out that way, I figured I'd just go visit my dad in the hospital. My mom and my aunt and uncle were up there with him at that point, and I had been texting my mom when I was talking to the guy about the car. It's like, well, I'm not doing anything else. Might as well go there. So I went over to the hospital, and dog hair. As I'm pulling into the parking lot, one of the first cars I see has 777 on the license plate. It's like, yep. And so I go on up, making my notice of it, of course. And my little buddy's over here with me now. I'm gonna let's see if I can get her. Hi. Yeah, so I go up to the room and visit with my family and tell them about how it's not doing anything now, conveniently. So we I can't remember where I was and everything that I said on the last one. So I'm trying to meander my way through it, and it's like, oh wait, yep, there, okay. Anyway, so my brother says he and his wife and the kid are gonna stop by after they get food, and I told them that I would trade off with them and go hang out in the waiting room with Gracie while they were visiting with my dad. However, then it took them a really long time to get over there, and I was about ready to leave by the time they finally did. So right as they got there, my mom and I were actually talking about leaving and just going home and letting them take turns visiting my dad, because it already took an awful lot of time to get there. And we were kind of like, it was like 45 minutes to an hour or something. It's like, I'm really ready to be done here. And my mom had been up there all day yesterday, so she kind of was too. And they finally get there as we're getting ready to head out. So we sit with Gracie in the waiting room. And I was really hungry because I had like a handful of peanut butter M&Ms, and that was like the extent of what I had during the day. So it was 8:30 at night, and I was kind of hungry. And I had been complaining about being hungry for like, well, since I got there like 6:15. Yeah, should have grabbed something on the way, and oh well. I didn't figure I'd be there for a long time. So then my brother gets there, and we hang out with Gracie in the waiting room, and bugs. No, go away, you messed up my last video. She don't care. When we finally went to leave, my 11:11, yeah. I saw, okay, when I pulled into the parking lot, or no, before I pulled into the parking lot, on the way between the guy's house where we got the car checked and the hospital, I saw the odometer hit 153,333. It's like, okay, got it. So then as we're leaving, my mom says, it sounds really good. Is Frosty Boy? It's like a little ice cream shop in town. It's like, yeah, maybe. But she decided not to. We were leaving in separate cars and all that stuff, and it's just like, forget it. So we have this. Oh yeah, we both left, and I went ahead and stopped at Hardee's on my way because they had like these 2 for $5 chicken tender wraps that were really good. So I was like, I can do that. I'm gonna do that. So I did. And on the way home, I see like the odometer hit where 345 were the last digits, and I saw the trip mileage hit 44.4, and then as I was on our road getting ready to pull into our driveway, I saw that I had a missed call from my mom, and so I called her back, and she said that she changed her mind and she wanted Frosty Boy after all. She's like, where are you at? It's like, well, I was getting ready to turn into the driveway. I said, but I haven't yet. And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. And it's like, I'll just go. It's no big deal. So as I'm pulling past our driveway, or our road, the trip mileage hits 51.5, which that is my great-grandma's number. That was her birth date, so I see that one. It's like, yep, meant to be. So I go down and get our stuff from the ice cream place, and they figure up the total. And the girl says that's $9.99. It's like, cause of course it is. So yeah, on the way back home, I actually pulled into the parking spot in our driveway as the car hit 55.5. So it's like, I feel like this whole thing was just the universe kind of fucking with me. And yeah. So that was the whole thing, and I told my mom, like, well, so here are all these numbers that kept showing up along the way. And yeah, so that was entertaining. So go ahead and talk about the other one. The other time that something obscure like this happened was after I got my piercings done, these newer ones, like these 4. And I had them less than a week, and this one felt weird. Like, it just seemed like it was missing the piece on the back of it. So I got freaked out. And from what I could tell in the bathroom mirror, it didn't have a back on it. It's like, well, I just got this piercing less than a week ago. I don't want it to fall out. I want to keep this thing. So I talked to the people, and they said if I got there by a certain time, then they could help me. So as I'm trying to deal with talking to them about what was going on, I'm pretty sure I said my mom checked it as well and said it was also missing the back, because like what we saw of it was like this post with a little threaded end and nothing on it, and it's like, that's not good. So in this process, after I contact the tattoo shop that I got it done at, I got a phone call from this little lady that lives like 5 minutes away from my house, because I was supposed to pick her up and take her to an appointment, and I completely forgot all about it. And then she called me up right as I was fighting with this other thing, completely distracted. I had shut my volume off on my phone, so when my alarm went off reminding me that I had to do that, I missed it. So she calls, and I happened to look at my phone and see that it was ringing. I was like, oh shit. It's like, I'm supposed to take Mary Jane to her appointment. So I like threw shoes on and took off and like went over and got her, and luckily the place she needed to go was also like 5 minutes away. So like, yes, she was technically late, but when I get there at the time she tells me to be at her place, she's still leaving about the time the appointment starts. So there's been one time that hasn't happened, and it was because it was a new doctor's office, and the appointment was like 20 minutes away, and she didn't know exactly where it was. So we wanted to get there a little early just to make sure we could figure it out. So yeah. So anyway, as I'm taking her to her appointment, I hear back from the piercing place. They say if I get there by a certain time, then they would be able to help me. So yeah, it ended up working out. I ended up getting over there, and I wasn't able to make it at the time they'd originally said, but they had the person that was supposed to come in after that time slot canceled, so it ended up working out anyway. So my mom and I had both seen the post on this thing, like the back of it. There was the post with a threaded end and nothing on it. We both saw this. And I haul ass over to the tattoo shop, which is like 45 minutes away. Like tapping on it every now and then to make sure it doesn't fall out. And I get there and I'm seeing my numbers all over the place, right? So, and it's like all my grandparents, my uncle, family, friends, everybody that's passed, I'm seeing all their numbers. And I'm seeing all the repeating numbers everywhere. And so I get there and I I do the paperwork saying something about changing the piercing out. And that is my aunt and uncle are back with their puppy, and she is outside, so that's why the dogs are barking. Thank you. That's enough. So I do the paperwork. I go back with the girl and lay down on the table, and she looks at it and she says, "It's still there." It's like, what? And she even took a picture of it, and it's not a threaded piece. It is a disc thing that she said is like clamped on there. And she said the thing, or the piercings that the studs they use, she said it's virtually impossible for them to come off just like accidentally, because they're trying to avoid that. But she took a picture of it, and it was a disc. It was not a threaded end. It was a flat disc on the top of it. So yeah, my aunt's talking to him. So I went all the way over to this place. Now I did have a parking spot right up front, and put my quarter in there to hold the space and all that. And like, I got back to the car and it's like, so that was basically a wasted trip. It's like, but I know I saw something completely different than what I saw when she took a picture of it, and so I drive back home just thinking about universe is playing tricks on me, because that definitely changed. And I went home and I was talking to my mom. I said, okay, I just want to confirm this. I said, so what I saw, I saw a post that had a threaded end and nothing on it. And she said, yeah. I said, but that's not what it is. It doesn't have a threaded end. It's just like this other piece that pushes down into it. And so we both saw the same thing, but it wasn't what was actually there. So it's like, I got the sense that day, and have continued to have moments where it's like, universe is messing with me, like, because that whole scenario, that definitely changed. Something actually changed. No, Gidgy, hey, that's enough. Yeah, so stuff is changing. And I think it's, honestly, I get the sense that it's the universe showing me that whenever it's time to make things happen, like on this whole twin flame deal or whatever, or anything else, it's completely in control. It can make me go anywhere it wants me to go. And I just go right along with it, because I see things one way and it ends up not being how they're actually happening. So go figure. Yeah. And I feel there was something else I was wanting to talk about, but I don't remember immediately what that was. Oh, I do. Okay, so I was trying to end my evening last night as high vibe as I can, because that's like part of my process. I listen to the music that makes me feel good about things, and optimistic and hopeful, and then for the twin flame stuff or whatever, and just life in general. No, I don't want to play right now. But last night, since I was back late, I shortchanged myself, and I was just really tired. Like, I didn't do anything with the videos, and I prefer to put them up as soon as I get, or like the day I get them done, so I don't have to worry about them again, and so they can be under the actual date that they occurred, and then it doesn't get all chaotic when I'm like doing additional videos on days that don't line up with the exact calendar date or whatever. So yeah, last night I shortchanged myself a little bit, but not too bad. I was still feeling pretty good, and I was still like, kind of laughing at the way the evening had gone, with feeling, with that sense that the universe was fucking with me. And yeah, I went to bed. This morning I got up, and it's like I felt off and wasn't able to get my normal routine going like I normally do. And like, I did one of the meditations, but it still just felt bleh. And then I started doing like listening to the music and stuff that usually puts me in a really good space. Tried doing another meditation, and it's just kind of all discombobulated and wasn't working out right. So bugs. So it's like, I don't know what this is all about. I don't know what my issue is. Why am I in a funk? And then as I'm laying there, kind of processing through this, and one of the things that happened was my mom, when she got to the hospital, the nurse told her my dad was like hallucinating over the night and early morning. So then it became a thing with, it was this like more of a mental health issue. I've talked about mental health concerns running in the family. You know, we got some obsessive compulsive disorder. My uncle's bipolar. I'm pretty sure my dad's mom was borderline. So there's some stuff. And depression and anxiety run big as well. So yeah, it's like, okay, so then I'm thinking about all this stuff with like my conversation with my aunt yesterday. And the second video I did yesterday that I haven't watched and uploaded yet, I actually talked about like having these concerns about some of the stuff that was, the way things have played out this year, wondering if I was getting like insight that, you know, something could happen to my dad at some point. And that really bothered me because, you know, that's one of those things, like, I don't think I want the kind of responsibility to know when somebody's going to pass away. That doesn't sound appealing at all. So it's something that's like, I had these thoughts that kind of came up earlier in the year, you know, and like immediately at the start of the year, I was basically given the insight that it's the cycle of endings, if you will, and there would be some death, and then the ones that I expected would be my grandma and grandpa, and they're still around, but the ones that did end up happening were my uncle, and then a family friend, a former coworker of mine. Oh, and my brother's mother-in-law passed away back at the end of April. So that was another thing that happened. But when I started like seeing all these other numbers, I was concerned. It's like, okay, is this trying to tell me that it's like my dad's year too? Because that's unnerving. Not cool with that. But as I kind of gave myself some space after doing the video, I think the biggest thing was to get it out of my system, so it's not just like this fear that's nagging at me, like, oh, is this going to happen? You haven't talked to anybody about it. Like, I wasn't trying to put it out in the universe to for it to be a thing. It's like, I mean, I don't want to manifest it in talking about it, but I think the point was I needed to get it out of my system that it was ever a concern to begin with, and also own the fact that, you know, like the stuff that I am starting to realize I'm able to do, like some of the abilities I do have, the lessons I have been learning, and, you know, like teaching my healing process, which is just through the means of sharing it and being open about what has been going on my end. Gidget went all the way up to the house to bring me another ball. There are 3 next to me that I'm not doing anything with, so she got a 4th. No thank you. No. But yeah, like, I didn't want that to be a thing that I have to concern myself with. But it was a little bit of a fear since it had come up, and then I hadn't had the opportunity to get it out of my system. So I think I just needed to talk about it and get it out of my system. So then I was talking to my aunt, and I talked a little bit about that in the longer video from yesterday. You know, and she's kind of really set on she wants to know the triggers and how we got from this point to this point. It's like, this is not the kind of thing that's just like, there's one thing that happened and started all this other stuff. It's like, this is just a series of little things that have been adding up over the course of my lifetime. So, yeah. So then, Tazzy, hush. You know, she's wanting to know these details. It's like, I don't have those details. But when I was waking up this morning and nothing was working out right, like it normally does, for my routine, Tazzy, stop. Yeah. So this morning, you know, and then the mental health stuff came up, and I just got totally slurped. So that was like another thing that that I started thinking about, and then I started thinking, it's like, you know, my conversation with my aunt. It's like, well, am I just being selfish, or am I just an asshole again, whatever. And then as I was kind of going through this stuff, and I spent a chunk of my morning crying again, I came to the realization that this is exactly why I am where I am at the moment, and have been continuously having these messages about establishing my boundaries and learning what's mine and what's not mine. Because it's like, as I'm navigating this journey, I'm finding more and more that, you know, okay, like basically, like when you connect with people, it establishes cords to connect you in some way, right? So, since my family has been in my life my entire life, and long before I knew anything about boundaries, and long before I knew any of this stuff, it's like there's a lot of unraveling that I'm having to do to figure out what's really at the heart of the issues that are coming up. And like the issue with my dad, as I'm thinking through things this morning, I start feeling like I'm being selfish or something. It's like, that is part of the point, I think, because, you know, I told my aunt yesterday, it's like, or maybe the day before, it's like, look, I'm at the point, it's like, I want to be able to live my own life, and right now I'm having to learn all the things that I've carried that weren't even mine to carry to begin with, and unraveling some of like those kind of connections where, you know, because, okay, nobody in my family does things because they genuinely want to, or it's something that they truly love doing. It's always obligation, and it's not for the things that bring them joy. It's obligation to the family. You know, I didn't grow up being encouraged to have any kind of autonomy. It was, you know, my mom living vicariously through me. So, like, the one thing that I had that I did love, she tagged along for it, which was fine. She was helpful on that journey. But then when, okay, we won the state championship my junior year, which was the school's first state championship of anything, and our drumline did it. But then the next year, we won the World Guard Internationals, or whatever it is, WGI, in Dayton, Ohio, and we won for our class. So it was this big world championship thing, even though there was no other groups there was one group from Japan in the entire contest, and I think that was the only international group there was. But we won that, and it was this big thing. But then when we're all meandering around the floor and the parents have run down and all that stuff, and we're doing our congratulations and thank yous and all that fun stuff, my mom came over to me, and the thing she said was, "I deserve this as much as you do." Wasn't good job, nothing like that. It was, "I deserve this as much as you do." It's like, great. And I remember thinking that maybe she needs it more than I do. And it just, it immediately sucked the life out of it for me. And it was like, I always felt a disconnect. I don't know if that's a neighbor or what's happening. I always felt a disconnect. Oh, the neighbor's dog. Because that was what she met me with. Can't decide if my uncle's trying to come over here or not. That would annoy me. Just because you see me sitting here does not mean we have to talk. No, sitting by a tree. Or standing by a tree. But yeah, it's like that was how she approached me afterwards, and because I think I'm being bombed by the birds. It's like a rock or something just fell. Maybe an acorn, I don't know. Anyway, I was trying to swallow my pride actively, and was on my way to say thank you for your part in helping us do this. And then once she did that, it's like, nope, not saying it. So then, that became this big rift too. And I remember, when I was in undergrad, my brother was still living at home because his college, he stayed local and paid his tuition, so he didn't have housing or anything like that to worry about. And I was talking to him about it. It's like, she just completely robbed me of this thing. It's like my mom and I were fighting a lot back then, and mainly because of that kind of stuff. And it's like, that shit, and when I developed that attitude of maybe she needs it more than I do, it felt like I basically walked completely away from everything, with my connections with my peers and those friendships. It's like, okay, it's not my thing, so maybe I need to go find a new thing. And I never really established what it was that I loved to do beyond that. I know now I will one day have a marimba of my own. Even if I never play it for anybody else, I want it for me. And I decided that way back in high school, because when I started out with our school's percussion, we had this, we called it the Xylomar. It was like a xylophone marimba. Bunch of it wasn't the fun stuff. But I always liked, when we got the real marimbas, it's like, I want that. I was section leader, so I got that. But then, the marimba was my thing. That was all I played, I think, the rest of the time I was in high school. So 4 seasons. And that was my baby. And that was just such a disappointing thing when she's just like, okay, now it's your thing. No, it's not mine anymore. But like, that's the kind of connection it is. Like, she said she was doing it for me, or at least that was the illusion she was trying to put out there. But then in that one moment, she showed what it was really for, and it wasn't me, it was for her. So that has been, I feel like it's gotten really, really serene and quiet out here. It's like, I feel really loud talking all at once. But yeah, it was like, you need it more than I do, fine. And let me go figure out something else, since this was the one thing I had to connect with, and now it's not there anymore. And then I go to undergrad, which was for her because she never went to college, or at least right after high school. She graduated midterm. She graduated in December, but she married my dad in the middle of November, like right before she graduated, and then next year had my brother, and then a couple years after that had me. So I always heard it was her life's biggest regret that she hadn't gone to college afterwards. I was like, me on the other hand, if I could do it all over, I would not have gone to college immediately. I would have taken some time to try to figure out what I liked to do, what I wanted to do on that end. I didn't know, so I went. Since I didn't know and I just knew I had to go, I ended up doing psychology and religious studies, mainly to figure myself out. That was my whole motivation with undergrad, was maybe I'll figure out me. And I kind of bounced around with sociology classes and stuff like that, but the end game ended up being the psychology and religious studies, and then minors in creative writing and interpersonal relations. So yeah, but it's like, since my family, the connections with them, it's always out of obligation, and basically, if you happen to find something you like, that's good. Rather, it's okay. But you don't let anything stand in the way of your obligation to the family. It's like, no. I'm 40, and now I'm realizing that I'm where I am today, which is back at my parents' house and not really doing anything overtly productive, because it was not ever encouraged to find something I'd love and to pursue that. It was my mom's path was to go straight from one family to the next family, and then, we've lived here in this house since I was 4. They bought this land off of my great-grandparents, and then my grandma and grandpa moved up after my great-grandpa passed away, which they had a house over there that they had rented while they were in Oklahoma. And then we've never really, it was never a big thing that they were over there and we were over here, but now in the later years, like, my mom and her sisters are over there several times a week, if not daily. My mom and the other one that lives next door are pretty much daily, with rare occasions. And of course, my grandparents have lost the majority of their friends at this point. They've all died off, so it's just family. And family is their entertainment, their company, their everything. So it's like when I was thinking about it this morning, it's like this whole deal with my dad and like, you know, talking to my the younger aunt about it. It's like, I know she's judging me. I can just tell you that just from like how she's responding. And part of it was because in my big long spiel to her, I also like threw out some stuff about religion that I've been learning and establishing for myself. And she's very Southern Baptist, so yeah. And it's kind of funny because both of my aunts go to Southern Baptist churches, and one, the younger one, seems, I don't know, the middle one that I spend a lot of time with, she is more open to like the different stuff that I talk about, and like this, like the numbers and the following the signs and, you know, those kind of connections. She says she feels like I talk over her head a lot and she doesn't understand much of what I'm talking about, but it doesn't bother her. Whereas my other aunt, I'm pretty sure she feels like it's a judgment of her personal religion, and therefore, you know, she can't look past that at whatever I'm saying to see the bigger underlying issues, maybe. I don't know. I feel like this video was not as... It did not feel as glorious as it would have if I would have continued that first one rather than mess it up. And here this dog is again trying to distract me with her little nonsense. Yeah. You know, I was just in there and was looking at my cards again, and the ones that I was pulling for today were talking about, like, okay, like your personal experience, or your personal experience with God has to be the most important thing, like your experience of the connection, and not what you learn in religious entities or from people speaking specifically for a religious entity or anything like that. It has to come from your personal experience and learning to trust your intuition and that guidance. Will you stop? I really don't want that. And I think that's kind of been today's you know, it was like I started with this disappointing, heavy feeling, and then I have been learning. But it wasn't... It's taken some time. It's every day it's like that. It's like I might start really high in a good mood one day, and then the next day I wake up crying again. You know, and I did set the intention that whatever still stands in the way of me making it to my soul family, whatever needs to be healed, let's just do it, because I'm ready to get it over with and be able to connect with other people that get me in ways that my family never could. Yeah. So here we are. It's the lesson for today, I guess. But anyway, I guess I will end this here and go get the other video watched and uploaded, and hopefully get this one uploaded before I'm done tonight. Maybe Zibby will help me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So, well, as always, I appreciate you, whether you made it this far or not, and until the next time, see you later.